Hey, everybody. Welcome back to RB. Did I spook you?
I did not know we were starting.
Sarah got spooked. I didn't tell her we were starting. I just went for it.
Pat's back, everybody.
I'm back. I am the host of RBL Weekly, the show where we look at the top 5 battles from around the Roast Battle League every week. My name is Pat Barker. I am the commissioner of the Roast Battle League. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely and talented co-host, Sarah Keller, who did an amazing job holding it down for me when I was out of town for about a month. It was quite a busy month for me. I was in Las Vegas, which I think I told everybody before, writing for a show called BattleBots. If you enjoy robots beating the shit out of each other and have access to the Discovery Channel, come December, I have the perfect show for you. And then I made a poor decision. I went to Philadelphia to see my beloved Phillies in the World Series. It was roughly a $4,000 mistake. They lost both games as soon as I got to town. Everything was going great, and then I walked into the ballpark, and it was everything went very, very poorly.
Yeah, Pat got real mad at me because I asked who won, and he was like, "You must know." I'm like, "No, I genuinely don't know."
Seems like the kind of thing you could have Googled before you brought up, like if you had a relative that was dying of cancer, I would ask around before. I'm like, "Hey, how's your mom doing?" or whatever. That's an apples to apples comparison for me.
Because to me, I'm like, I'm taking an interest in your life. I'm trying to care about the things you care about. So I'm like, "Oh, how did that thing go that you went to?" And you're like, You're the worst person, and I hope you die.
No, it was totally fine. My wife does the opposite, which is where if they lose, she just pretends that it never even happened.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you prefer that?
No. I prefer actually the way you did it. I had a bad reaction to a loss in 2011, and my wife was like, "I'm never gonna try to talk sports with him ever again." But anyway, I was away for a while. You did a great job holding it down with a bunch of different co-hosts. Thank you to all the co-hosts who came in and helped cover for me as well. And I, to be frank, had to shut off the roast battle part of my brain to survive writing for a couple TV shows at the same time. So I am so out of the loop, and I'm so excited to be back. Today we are going to focus on a very special Roast Battle League event that we had while I was gone that frankly was a little bit of my baby. I booked all the battles. I was so excited for it, and then I got pulled away by other things. So this is the first time I'm going to be seeing these battles that I conceptualized like many months ago. So I'm really excited.
It was a good night. It was wild. It was busy. I was there for this event, and I barely remember the battles, not because they weren't incredible, just because I was running around like a crazy person, like I always am on Roast Battle night. So I'm excited to be able to like breathe and actually watch these without a million things going on.
Absolutely,
in my head.
Yeah. And it's always a different experience kind of watching them back than it is like in the room, especially when someone's as busy as you running around and covering for me and doing all the different things that come along with. I mean, to take everybody behind the scenes, you were instrumental in getting these people from all over the world into LA, planes, hotels, everything like that. You did all the hard work.
Yeah.
And you'd like to think that when the night actually rolls around, the hard work stops and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. But I know that's not what actually happened.
No. All my meticulous planning and, okay, well, we'll get everybody in early and on time and we'll do major airlines and blah, blah, blah. Like all this planning went into it, and then it still just implodes. And we had 2 battlers that didn't make it out of Austin, which is like so obnoxious because I specifically booked their flights because they had so many from Austin to LA that day. I'm like, okay, if something goes wrong, they can get on another one. Best laid plans.
Well, it's the nature of travel in, I want to say, the post-pandemic era. I feel like once, COVID hit, travel became a real clusterfuck for everybody. Lord knows, I mean, in the last few years, I've had several flights postponed, delayed, canceled.
I just did this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get home.
So it happens. We did our best, but it sounds like the results were something to be, I'm going to be extremely impressed by, and I look forward to seeing it. Speaking of extremely impressed, before we get into the battles, and we're going to get there, we carpooled to the taping today. And when you got out of the car and started walking into this beautiful venue that we're at right now, I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but copious amounts of bottled water. So much water.
We're very fancy here.
I love it. But when you got out of the car, I was like, what the fuck are you wearing? This is insane, and I want to make sure that we get this.
This is my dog, Hank, head to toe. This was a birthday present I asked for specifically. I was like, I want a sweatsuit that has my dog all over it, and it delivered.
It definitely delivered. That dog is on every square inch of that shirt. How much does something like that cost, top to bottom?
Oh, I have no idea because it was a birthday present, so I have no idea.
Who got it for you?
Josh.
Your
boyfriend.
Your boyfriend.
Yeah.
I feel like he's
so
a
worth
keeper.
it. I think so.
I feel like if you bring that request to him and he sticks around and buys
delivers,
it for you,
yeah. He puts up with my insane dog lady.
You do have like white lady dog energy.
Oh,
like,
100%.
You carry him in a purse?
No, but I do kiss him on the mouth.
There it is. There it is. Took a while to get there, but here we are. Glad we're there. So, amazing outfit. I'm so excited to be back doing this with you, and I'm so excited to look at the event that I missed. Coming soon next week or the week after, we will get back into our normal format, pulling battles from all over the globe. But this is something that we worked really hard on, and we want to be the first of many. We want to have these opportunities to bring in the best people from around the world to LA, to Austin, to neutral sites. We've discussed a lot of things. Hopefully we'll have some more cool stuff like this coming. But for the first one, I'm really excited that we were able to, for the most part, pull it off. Apologies to Heather Keith and Patrick DePari from Austin and their opponents. Speaking of which, let's start with a battle that was a little bit of an impromptu battle.
Yeah.
Now, the plan originally was for Heather Keith from Austin to go against Paige Wesley, who we've seen on the show a whole bunch, LA's own Paige Wesley, who is kind of a woman on a mission, and we've talked about this as well. She wants to face the champion in every city and defeat them all. Mm-hmm. And this was supposed to be the start of potentially that gauntlet. Didn't work out that way thanks to mechanical issues on an airplane. But Paige, always ready to step up at a moment's notice. She took another battle on, what are we talking about, an hour's notice, 2 hours notice?
Yeah. Maybe 2.5.
Yeah.
I texted her that Heather wasn't going to make it. She was really bummed, and she wanted to battle Ashley, who's supposed to battle
Ashley Monique from the Bay Area.
Who's supposed to battle Patrick DePari. I was like, I'm not going to make anybody battle that isn't prepared for it. So I'll pose it to Ashley, but like 100% with the caveat of no pressure. We don't want you to do anything that like you're not prepared for, because that's not good for the show.
Yeah.
She didn't want to, which I wouldn't have done it. Like 100%, I would not have.
No,
gone up against Paige Wesley.
A couple times I've been offered battles on like the night you get there. It's like, hey, we had a couple things drop out. Do you want to battle this guy? And the answer is always absolutely not.
No, I don't. That's not fair to me. That's not fair to the audience. It's not fair to anybody. So Paige is an anomaly. She is like, nope, I'll do anything, anytime, anywhere. So she reached out to her good buddy Armando Torres, and he agreed. And they did a 3-joke round to start off the night, and it was very awesome.
So this is LA versus LA. This is not officially a part of the event. This is not a bi-coastal, cross-global roast battle that we had planned on having, but these are two of my favorite battlers. Armando hasn't been around in the LA scene in a while, but had a bunch of classic battles sort of back in the day. Paige has obviously been a little bit more active. We see her a lot on the show, and these guys co-host a podcast together called Cult Podcast, which is very successful.
Yeah.
And a really good listen. So if you haven't heard that, make sure you tune in to an episode of Cult Podcast. But for now, let's just check out their battle. This is short notice. Paige Wesley versus Armando Torres. Let's check it out.
Armando was half Mexican, half Jewish. So as a compromise, he was circumcised with a weed whacker.
They say the camera adds 10 pounds. Just ask Paige, she's eaten several cameras.
It's true, I am fat, but Armando looks like the only terrorist that hijacks food trucks. Huge bitch.
Damn, bitch, why do you look like a kindergarten teacher that cares too much? You look like you paid for crayons with your own credit card.
You look like you couldn't because it'd be EBT. Armando sleeps with a knife under his bed. Not for self-defense, just in case he finds sandwiches.
Paige says that her husband makes her weak in the knees, which is dangerous with how weak her fucking ankles are. Paige's favorite restaurant is IHOP, which is also what I'm going to call her when she loses a foot to diabetes.
Armando got beat up by the cops last year. Oh, wait, I fucked that up. Armando stole donuts.
Damn, that was great.
That was so good.
That was really, really fun. I don't know. I mean, I assume overtime based on the fact that they each had 4 jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Full disclosure, normally I pre-screen these battles and, I kind of know what I'm walking into. This time I'm going in completely blind on everything, which means I don't know who won. Do you remember who got the win on that one?
Nope.
Great stuff from both of them.
So good. I mean, really, they came up with those on 3 hours, 2 hours? That was so good.
I mean, it's just those guys obviously have that mechanism in their brain where, and I think all of us have it to a degree, where when you've done so many of these, and certainly for Paige, who's been active, I'm sure you put somebody's picture up there and you're like, hey, write me 1,000 roast jokes in 5 minutes.
Right.
She could be like, I'll come close.
Yeah.
For Armando being out of the game for a little bit, I mean, he hasn't battled since pre-pandemic. Really, really impressive. And you know what? They both had a bunch of great stuff. For Paige, to start off with the weed whacker joke, that's a formula that I don't think we've talked about before that to me provides endless sort of like possibilities. And they're all fun. When you have somebody who checks off 2 different like ethnic boxes.
Vastly different.
Yeah. And you could be like, oh, which means he X and Y, and pull from kind of both of those worlds and turn a little double play of racism. I really get a kick out of that. I've never heard one of those jokes that didn't make me smile, and that certainly was one of them.
Yeah, that's definitely a gold mine when you can do that. Because, like you said, you get to double down on the racism.
Yeah.
Which, who doesn't want that?
Well, that's what the show's all about.
It is. I also think that their ability to come up with such great jokes so quickly speaks very highly of their friendship and how well they know each other.
Yeah.
Because the more you know each other, the easier it is to write jokes. Like I feel like if somebody was like, oh, write jokes about Pat right now, like that would be easier than somebody I don't know.
For sure.
Or barely know.
The chemistry was great, but what I love is these guys have spent thousands of hours together, which means they probably know everything about each other, and yet there wasn't really anything super personal in there. It was broad, it was accessible for the entire audience. You didn't have to know any sort of backstory to enjoy the jokes. I mean, certainly the knife under the bed was outstanding. But one that I really wanted to point out, because it's something that I struggle with, and I think we've talked about this before, but to look at somebody and do a you look like joke about their personality almost. For Armando like leveled me when he said, you look like a kindergarten teacher who cares too much.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that is just spot on.
Uh-huh.
Spot on. And then you look like you pay for the kids' crayons with your own credit card, which my wife has done in the past. So,
I think every teacher has.
Right, for sure.
To. Yeah.
So that one just was like extra funny to me. And then her like flip on the EBT thing, like it was really, really good, sort of top to bottom.
Yeah, they have great chemistry, clearly, and they work great together. And that was such a good way to start the night.
Now, it was probably fair that they did not pick a winner, but I'll put you on the spot here. If you had to pick one based off of what we just saw, who are you going with?
Ooh, I think just based off the overtime, I thought Armando squeaked it out purely based on the overtime. And also, I don't usually, when I'm watching this for the show, I don't pay attention to who I think should win or not most of the time. Because that's not what we do, Pat.
Yeah, but we're filming a show, so let's do it.
Pat just likes putting me on the spot.
I do. I like watching you squirm. It's fun, and I would agree with you. I thought Armando edged it out in the overtime. I was impressed with the dexterity that it took to actually act out the IHOP thing. I didn't think he'd be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
That was impressive. Yeah, and I thought he edged it out on that one, but I mean, really, just an outstanding battle. And thank you to both of those guys for stepping up on short notice and saying, "Hey, no, we got a big crowd. We're in the main room. We're doing this cool thing. Fuck it, let's do it. Why not? I wouldn't have the guts to do it, but I appreciate the fact that you guys did. Okay, now let's get into the official league battles. We had 6 lined up for this event. We've discussed the 2 that fell through, which means we have 4 great battles still to come on this show. We are going to move now to a Northern versus Southern California clash. This is the undefeated undercard champion of the Belly Room, John Luna, who we've seen on this show before, undefeated across multiple platforms, not just Roast Battle. He's very involved in another show out here called Comic Wars. He's undefeated in that as well. The guy has just never lost a Roast Battle. That is correct, yes. And we're talking about upwards of 17, 18 battles across the platforms at this point.
Holy buckets.
Very impressive resume, but the last couple battles he had in the Belly Room, and I think we talked about this, maybe not his best. He's sort of, so I was really curious to see how he would rebound. And it's crazy to talk about somebody who's never lost and be like, how can they rebound?
Right.
But I'm looking for a classic John Luna performance, and he's going against Morgan Anderson from the Bay Area, who I believe only has 1 loss on her resume, which was to Paige Wesley in a #1 battle of the week that we covered a few months back. Morgan and John have been the 2 most impressive, to me, people that I've been introduced to in the last year and a half, 2 years of Roast Battle. And Morgan has never showed any signs of slowing down. John was absolutely on fire until his last couple, which were still good. Still good. I don't want to seem like they weren't. But when I came up with this battle, it was like, okay, these are the 2 best newcomers in my mind, and I'm really excited to see it. This is John Luna from LA going against Morgan Anderson from the Bay. Let's check it out.
When we spoke, John told me he was bisexual, so that means he has 2 types. They're just both diabetes.
Everybody give it up for Miller Lite Monroe. Morgan's a lot like Kanye West, because she's past her prime, dresses like a homeless person, and maybe if her mom didn't die, we wouldn't have to listen to her talk so much.
He's only been ghosted by 1 woman. John is and he illegally crosses borders all the time when he gets within 500 yards of a school or playground.
Shit. Morgan did date a woman 8 years younger than her. Even she doesn't want to date a woman her own age.
Thank you, Gabe Guevara. You can tell John has psoriasis. He's broken so many fucking scales, his body just started producing them.
Yeah, I do have psoriasis, but at least I'm comfortable with my own skin. Morgan's had a lot of work done on her face, right? But, I mean, she's a 36-year-old woman trying to get into the entertainment industry, so I can't blame her. But I think you're going to the wrong doctor. You gotta go see Doc Brown. You're gonna need a time machine, okay?
John's mom is hot. In an act of rebellion, he decided to major in the one thing she's terrified of, videography.
Oh yeah, Morgan got lip filler because she missed how her face used to look when she was with her ex-boyfriend. Morgan hit her, yeah.
Plastic surgery jokes, John. John hates plastic. It's one of the 1 things he can't eat. Fuck anything. Too bad nobody wants to fuck him. I've been fucked unwillingly more than he's been fucked willingly.
I've done a lot of sex, okay? This happened a lot, like a couple times. Morgan's done a lot of drugs, not just general anesthesia, okay? She wants to break the glass ceiling because she thinks she'll get to smoke it.
All right, so that was John versus Morgan, and there's something I feel like we should address before we even go further, which is like this is my first time seeing the battles, and that one in spots I felt like was hard to hear, which is more of an issue certainly on our end. I'm not a camera guy, I'm not a microphone guy, I don't know how any of that works. But I didn't have similar issues with Paige and Armando, which I'm sure. As somebody who's done comedy as long as you have and as long as I have, sometimes you perform in a venue where, and again, this is not a Comedy Store thing. I think this is on our end with the filming, but sometimes you'll perform in a venue where the sound quality sucks. Mm-hmm. And the differences in elocution and articulation really shine through in those parts.
Yes.
And I felt like Paige and Armando were very comfortable up there and articulated very, very well, and there were no real issues with the sound. Whereas this one, I felt like maybe nerves played a part in it.
I definitely think nerves were a big part of it.
I never like to cast that on somebody because who knows? That's maybe not fair, but it could be. Either way, I felt like in certain spots, especially with John, the delivery was a little bit more rapid fire, and I definitely missed out on parts. I feel like we need to talk about that because I might have missed out on something that was really, really good, and I want to make sure that if I'm not giving it proper credit, we understand why.
Exactly, and I think it should be said that we watched this twice to make sure, like to try to catch everything. We paused it, be like, what did they say? So we tried our best to get the entirety of the battle out of it, but there were definitely some parts that we both were just like,
Yeah, exactly. Especially on tags, if you have the crowd sort of laughing.
Yes.
Residual laughter from the punchline, and then you try to tag it. Some of that was a little bit difficult to understand. So
yes.
our apologies. That being said, let's talk about the battle. I don't know who won, but it is my assumption that John Luna is undefeated no more.
Correct.
Okay, we have official word from Cody. Historic loss for John Luna, his first one. And frankly, a little bit of a continuation of the trend that I would say we kind of saw coming in. I would advise anybody who's newer at battling, who's going to be on a platform like this, to do whatever it takes to not whip out a loose leaf sheet of paper at any point. I thought that was a momentum shift a little bit because he did that, and then Morgan had a couple of big punches lined up, and frankly, if she had something about the paper, it might have been
game
even
over.
More lopsided. Yeah, I think that John maybe went to the well once too often with the plastic surgery jokes. I'm not sure he set them up properly with Morgan's age.
Yeah, she's not old, so
yeah.
I do remember now, like watching this battle and loving the beginning and being like, oh my God, this is so good. This is what I expected it to be. And then it devolved quickly. And I remember sitting there being like, okay, I'm bored with the plastic surgery bits. Like they weren't the trick of doing 3 or 4 jokes in a row about the same topic is if they're not working, they're only going to not work more and harder the more you keep doing it. And so I think maybe if John could have like switched strategies and tried something different, I will say I think when he brought the paper out, it got him in his own head because I think that Doc Brown joke was – this is just me speculating, but my guess is that it was written differently and maybe a little bit more concise than how he delivered it.
Yeah.
Because it did seem like he kind of stumbled and like went around a bend to get – it was definitely too far to get to the Doc Brown, but I thought that could have been a really good joke.
Sure, yeah.
If it had been delivered correctly.
I think just
as intended,
some strategic missteps, and I don't think you can afford to make those against somebody as good as Morgan. I mean – Morgan came out firing. She had a lot of different variety in the topics that she tackled. Yeah, you talked about the start of the battle when John opened with, I believe it was his opening joke, the Kanye West one,
joke,
which was incredible. And I saw that and I said, okay, this is the John Luna that I saw in his first 5 or 6 battles where I was like, this guy is a monster. And it's still in there. Clearly, he hasn't forgotten how to write jokes. None of that is the issue. I think it might just sort of be a preparation thing when it comes to the notes. I'm not saying don't have notes on stage, but write 2 or 3 words and get them on a little sheet of paper that you can like sort of take a peek at, right? As opposed to busting out and unfolding a piece of paper. The unfolding is what makes it. I thought
he was going to do a prop. I was like, at first I was like, oh, he's checking his notes. That's fine. Okay. But then he started unfolding. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a prop.
Right.
There's going to be a picture on here. And then it wasn't. I was like, oh, well, that was a very big distraction for the sake of a distraction.
For the sake of a distraction. Yeah. Absolutely. And I just think sometimes you have to set up your jokes properly. And I didn't see, this is an edited copy, so I didn't see the intro where they say, hey, why are you battling this person? I know that's a good time to set up. She's a little bit older and so forth and so on. But in all honesty, like, there are certain things that I have never really seen work to the degree that you would think they would in roast battle. One of them is jokes about people's teeth. I don't know why. Yeah. They've never really worked to the degree that you would think that a good teeth joke would. Maybe it's because the audience far back can't see the person. And number 2 is an age jokes. And I know this because I moved to LA when I was 30, which in the industry is ancient.
Yeah.
You might as well be dead when you're 30. So when I started doing roast battles, especially as I got to my mid-30s and now into my late 30s, if I battle people younger than me, I was like, oh, God, they're going to make fun of me for being old. And what I realized very quickly is nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares. If anything, when we get like older roast battlers, they get more sort of support because it's like, look at you. You're fucking doing this shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. I've never seen the age stuff work. And I guess the angle he was going for was not maybe Morgan is old, although there were a couple that was the punchline. And then there were other ones where it's like, Morgan is trying to pretend to be young via plastic surgery. I think there could be something there. But age in general doesn't seem to work. What do you think?
No, I would agree. As someone who's been called old and young, weirdly, it's sometimes in the same joke, they rarely work. Especially, when you're going against someone that's not old, like, yeah, she might not be in her 20s anymore, but like, that's not, I have no idea how old she is. But, to me, I don't look at her and be like, that's an old bitch, No. So you're already using a setup and a premise that isn't right there in front of the audience. So you're stacking the chips against yourself immediately before you even start to write the joke.
Yeah.
It's like calling somebody fat that's like not, or ugly that's not, or it's just like, well, that's not what we're looking at,
Yeah, and I mean there was definitely something there. The lip filler joke was really, really good. I just think, maybe next time diversify the set list a little bit and come up with some different angles. And look, it's tough. Morgan, it's difficult. She is not an easy target, at least in terms of outward appearance. So if you're somebody like John Luna, who visually you are certainly a bigger target, you almost have to work twice as hard to not make it a visual battle. And I think that's what he did, and I think that is a losing proposition.
Yes. And I got excited because I remembered Morgan had my favorite joke maybe ever when she said, I've been unwillingly fucked, or wait, no.
I've been fucked unwillingly more times than you have willingly.
That's how you do a rape joke, everybody.
Absolutely.
When it's about yourself in your own experience. That was fucking, I was like, chef's kiss, amazing. I loved that moment. So it wasn't even like that good of a joke necessarily, but I'm totally backtracking. But like,
it went from the best joke she's ever heard to not even that good of a joke.
No, I don't. What
Very
impressive.
What I'm
trying to think is like, it wasn't that difficult of a joke to come up with.
Yep.
But we haven't heard it, and I loved it.
And there's always something to be said for rebuttals. You get more leeway on rebuttals. By the same token, she
Yes.
did the John hates plastic surgery because plastic is a thing that he
Yes.
can't eat, which is very much a third grade schoolyard, thing you would hear one of them say.
Yes.
Like, this guy eats plastic. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But because it's a rebuttal and it appears to be in the moment, and I think as we move on, the rebuttal technique, I feel like, is not as prevalent as it used to be. I feel like not enough people are utilizing that as a weapon. It doesn't have to be the best joke you've ever written.
Yep.
It just has to shut down what they did. And I feel like Morgan was able to use all of the strategies of roast battle flawlessly, whereas John kind of got stuck on the one thing. I felt like it was very much a momentum battle. I feel like at the beginning they were both maybe a little bit nervous. And then as things sort of trended down for John, he struggled a little bit more. And as things trended up for Morgan, that's when she starts hitting the rebuttals. And, she had some classic jokes, like the psoriasis one was really good. And the cop and the videography
Yes.
was also outstanding. So kudos to both of them, especially Morgan Anderson, who continues to impress me. And I think we've said from the beginning, probably our number one pick in the Bay.
Yes.
And to me, if she stays on this path, only a matter of time before she is holding the championship belt out there.
Totally. And I would say my only advice, whatever, for Morgan is work on projecting and speaking clearly, articulating clearly, so that we can hear you and we don't miss those brilliant moments.
Exactly.
Because we can't go back in the room and rewind it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's an excellent call. So we are running a little bit long on this episode. So here's what I think we should do, because we originally, and we did this with the Netflix show too, because it was like, oh, we could do 6 battles in 30 minutes, but then we don't shut up.
No.
I'm enjoying this too much, and I love breaking this shit down. So let's do one more battle for today, and then we will bring it back next week with the remaining 2, the big double main event. So let's end this week with the next battle we're going to look at. This is a clash between New York and Chicago. From New York, Dan Wicks, who is one of the guys who helps run things over there. He runs the show at Grove 34, which has been a very, very successful show in New York. Make sure if you're in the area, you check it out. Going against, at the time, she was the undercard champion in Chicago. 3 days after this event, Chicago ran a main event champion versus undercard champion match.
What?
Yes, which she won. So as we air this now, this is the current main event and undercard champion. They merged the belt. I don't know what the plan is there.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy. But as of right now, it is my understanding that she is the double champion of Chicago, going up against one of our favorites from New York. And this is one of the only ones where I actually know the result, because I got a text from somebody after it ended that said, I want a recount on behalf of the loser. I won't spoil it here, but on behalf of the loser. So that leads me to believe this is a very close, intense, fun battle. This is Jessica Misra from Chicago going up against Dan Wicks from New York. Let's check it out.
All right, so I actually ran into an old flame of bands today. But I'm like this song, no woman would ever want him in between your boobs.
That's a very fun song. Jessica's half Indian. She's not Native American, although white guys do give her diseases and blankets.
Dan laughs at his own jokes like he just tied a woman to the train tracks. That's really why he loves trains.
Jessica's been dating a guy for 8 years. Yeah. She complains that his dick is small, but in fairness, even Chicago pussy is deep dish.
Live action Sid the Sloth.
Jessica is learning the code. Yeah. Because her Indian half is an engineer, and because her white half thinks women can do things.
Thank you, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Dude, look at you. I can't tell if you need to pee or you're already peeing.
Jessica walks dogs, and so does her boyfriend whenever they hold hands.
Dude, Dan looks like all the Lord of the Rings characters fucked each other and he's the one thing they can destroy.
This is true. As a child, Jessica was raised Catholic and could not celebrate Halloween. Yeah. So she actually started stand-up so she could hear boo!
And you look like your favorite part about being Catholic is you get to eat the body. A lot of people debate whether Dan has autism or not, but I'm here to put that debate to rest. Dan has Tourette's syndrome, and Dan is a lot like his Tourette's in that he's rarely in women.
Wow, that was outstanding. And when we conceptualize this whole roast battle league, can we do this thing? One of the concerns that I know I had, and I think that it was shared amongst other people, is a lot of times when you get two people together that don't know each other, that aren't friends, the battle is not necessarily as good. And I've always been of the belief that no, that it's not an impossible hill to climb. You can get this person from Chicago and this person from New York and have them meet one time. And if they're talented enough and good enough joke writers, then you could bring them together and we could still get magic. And that's exactly what we got in that battle.
100%. Yeah, that was so well said.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm a little stunned.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was so good. They both clearly gave each other information, and they both went in like, we're going to do this together and as a team, instead of being like, I'm going to win this thing and I'm not going to give you any information. Like, it was very obvious that they had FaceTimed or talked and really got that rapport down. I thought Jessica had a rough stutter step of a start to me. Like, I didn't think the sock joke hit that hard. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was just home run after home run after home run. Where I think Dan had really, really good jokes, but they were, to me, a level below Jessica's. Jessica covered a ton of different topics. Her jokes spanned from silly, wordplay to incredible, right turns, and spanned the spectrum of topics, where Dan's, I thought, were against anyone else incredible jokes. Mm-hmm. But going up against hers, they just felt a little less.
Yeah. Now, full disclosure, and I want to circle back and talk about some of the specific jokes and get into it a little bit more. I don't want the focus to be the result of this thing. Because on the one hand, we talk all the time about how it's all about having a great battle, and the results don't necessarily matter. And that's certainly what we got there. But on the other hand, if I'm getting on a plane and I'm flying 1,500 to 3,000 miles to do a thing, I want to feel like I got the result that was fair. Mm-hmm. So, full disclosure, somebody from Chicago texted me as we were live streaming this battle after the result was announced, and Dan was announced as the winner. And he said, I demand a recount. So I was expecting it to be very close, and it was.
Yes.
I can absolutely see a case for either of them, and I will lay out the case momentarily. But let me just confirm, because it seems like you are pretty clear you think Jessica got the win there.
I literally thought she won until just now when you told me
you
that
were
she
there
didn't,
and you
I was
had
there.
no idea.
But now I vaguely remember being like, oh, that's not what I expected. But yeah, watching this back, to me, it's very, 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 very close, but not close enough that I couldn't definitively give it to Jessica.
Now, that's an interesting thing that you just covered. And Cody, who is our producer of the podcast, who was there that night, also said, no, Jessica won.
Yeah.
So you guys were both there.
Yeah.
You watched them raise Dan's hand, and you thought Jessica won, which speaks to something that Jeff Ross has said for many years. Nobody remembers the winners and losers.
Yep.
Nobody remembers who wins. It doesn't matter. They only remember the performance. So obviously her performance resonated more with you guys to the fact that in your mind,
She won.
she won the battle. Here's the case that I'll make for Dan, because I thought they were both actually remarkably consistent. I thought they were both great. I do think that if you were edging each individual joke out, Jessica might have taken, if you break it down as like 5 rounds almost, she might have won 3-2. The deep dish pussy, to me,
100%.
was the joke of the battle. And that is not a knock on Jessica, because her closer specifically, she had a bunch of great stuff, but the Tourette's closer with the tag about being in women, I thought was the second best joke of the battle. But sometimes, and I didn't hear the judges, rationale, but sometimes you're there and you're in the moment and it's just bam, bam. Everybody's just landing punch after punch after punch after punch. And sometimes the deciding factor ends up being, what was the joke that the whole room exploded? They literally started chanting deep dish pussy. You know what I mean? And sometimes in that moment when you've just heard 10 incredible jokes, you edge it to that.
100%. Yep. And I know that's what happened, because there's always the argument for, well, you had the biggest joke of the night. Like, we've both lost to people where the judges have said you were more consistent, but they had the biggest hit.
Sure.
And vice versa. I've won because
absolutely same. Yeah.
It's part of the thing I think that makes roast battle a little bit arbitrary, like the judging a little arbitrary, because you don't know is that judge going to go with consistency? Are they going to go with the biggest pop? And you can't even be like, well, Pat usually goes with consistency, because it also depends on the night.
Oh, as somebody who's judged a bunch, I have I would imagine if you go back, I have no pattern.
No.
I would imagine sometimes I'm up there preaching consistency, and other times I'm like, you blew the room up, you win. It's just sort of in the moment, like how it feels. And it did feel to me like if I was a judge, and having the benefit of watching it in hindsight, on film, sometimes it plays differently on film than it does live.
100%.
I do think I would have edged it to Jessica. I think calling out I can't tell if you have to pee or you're already peeing.
That was my favorite.
Was absolutely incredible. I took a lot of notes on this one. I normally don't, but I was like, I have to, because there's so many funny things in this. Again, her closer with the let me put that debate Tourette's was great. His Native American joke to begin with, the diseases and blankets. If she really had, the one part I didn't understand, and I asked for clarity, and nobody could really give it to me. If she really has 2 dads, if she has 2 gay dads, and one is Indian and one is a white guy, that joke is incredible. It would have worked just as well if he was like her Indian dad and her white mom,
right?
But I mean, I guess she has 2 dads. I don't know. Sometimes you learn things from watching the battles, but I really like that joke. Regardless, she walks dogs, and so does her boyfriend when they hold hand or whatever the fuck. Like, I thought they were both great, and I feel like a proud dad right now.
Yeah,
as somebody who booked this battle and just based on nothing but having seen them perform consistently on this show before, feeling like it would work out.
It did.
I'm really proud of you guys. You did great. So I think they're both winners, but if I have to edge it to one, I would edge it to Jessica. But awesome job from both.
I would agree. I thought it was a fantastic battle. Like, to me, if we're counting just league battles, so far it was the battle of the night, in my opinion. And
I agree, and
I
think even if we're not, I think that was, to me, it was better than Paige versus Armando. It was 5 jokes instead of 3, so it was longer.
That's why I didn't count theirs, because to me it's too hard to compare the two.
Yeah.
But yeah. I still think it's Battle of the Night.
No, this is a battle to me that was everything I had hoped for. It lived up to everything and then went beyond it. And frankly, probably our 2 most consistent divisions in terms of pumping out content. So it was really cool to see Chicago and New York get that kind of shine. And I know it wasn't the main event in the room, but it is the main event for this episode because we're going to wrap it there. We will pick it up next week with our double main event, which features LA's Joe Urell versus Grace Leishman from Chicago and Ken Grinnell from London coming over to the States to take on Derek Humphrey from New York. I'm looking forward tremendously to both of those battles, and we'll get into them next week. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. I also was off social media for the duration of this. I had an issue with hackers. So if anybody followed the @RBL Commish account, which we were doing some really fun stuff on, it's done. It's done forever. We're going to be coming up with a new one. We will get that information out to you for sure. The easiest way to get that information is to follow me on my personal account, my new one, @ThePatBarker. I had, not to brag, you're going to be really impressed by this, I had like 1,600 followers.
Whoa, guys, you heard it here.
Yeah, and now I'm down to like 10% of
16.
that. So I need, like 160. Okay? That's I need help is what I need. So follow me @ThePatBarker. She is
At Sarah Keller 07.
Sarah Keller 07. I'm trying to get her numbers. She's got like 1 million followers. It's crazy. So I need to get there. So follow me there, and I will let everybody know when the new RBL account launches. And follow me on there as well. Until next time, I'm Pat Barker.
I'm Sarah Keller.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week with the continuation of our Halloween extravaganza.